Human history is marked by turning points, moments when a single invention reshaped the way we live, work, and understand the world. Among countless innovations, 6 stand apart for their profound and lasting impact: the wheel, writing, the printing press, the steam engine, electricity and the light bulb, and the internet. Each emerged in its own era, born from necessity, curiosity, or bold imagination, yet together they form a chain of progress stretching from the ancient world to our digital age. The wheel set humanity in motion, expanding trade, travel, and the boundaries of civilization. Writing preserved our memory, allowing knowledge to pass across generations. The printing press amplified ideas, fueling revolutions in science, religion, and politics. The steam engine powered the Industrial Revolution, multiplying human labor. Electricity and the light bulb illuminated our nights, enabling a 24-hour world. The internet connected the globe, merging communication, commerce, and culture in real time. This script traces the origins, development, and influence of these 6 extraordinary inventions. In understanding their stories, we discover not only the evolution of technology, but also the resilience, creativity, and ambition that define humanity itself. Part 1. The Wheel, Turning the Course of Civilization. Few inventions in human history have so seamlessly blended simplicity with transformative power as the wheel. On the surface, it is nothing more than a circular object designed to rotate around an axle. Yet this humble mechanism fundamentally reshaped how human beings moved, traded, built, and imagined their world. The story of the wheel is not a tale of one genius inventor unveiling a breakthrough in a moment of divine inspiration. Rather, it is a narrative of gradual experimentation, cumulative knowledge, and societal necessity, stretching back thousands of years to the dawn of civilization. In this chapter, we will journey back to ancient Mesopotamia, where the first known wheel emerged around 3,500 BCE. We will trace its slow evolution from a potter's tool to a cornerstone of transportation and engineering. Along the way, we will explore the cultural, economic, and technological ripple effects that the wheel set into motion. And we will examine how this seemingly simple invention laid the foundation for mechanical systems that continue to drive the modern world, from the cogs in our wristwatches to the turbines generating our electricity. The world before the wheel. Imagine life before the wheel. For tens of thousands of years, humans relied solely on their own muscles and the strength of domesticated animals to move goods and people. Heavy loads had to be dragged over uneven terrain on sledges or carried on the backs of humans and beasts. The friction was immense, the distances short, and the effort exhausting. Even in the great river civilizations of the ancient world, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China, transportation was constrained by the limitations of the human body and animal power. Boats could move cargo efficiently along rivers and seas, but overland travel remained slow and arduous. Roads were mere dirt tracks, often impassable in rain or snow. It was in this challenging context that the wheel emerged, not as a simple leap in convenience, but as a revolution in the human relationship with space, labor, and energy. The first wheels, Mesopotamia's breakthrough. The earliest evidence of a wheel comes from the ancient city of Ur in southern Mesopotamia, dating to about 3,500 BCE. However, the first wheels were not used for transportation at all. They were potter's wheels, flat circular platforms spun by hand or foot to shape clay into symmetrical vessels. These early devices were rotary tools rather than vehicles, but they laid the conceptual groundwork for rotational mechanics. The leap from stationary potter's wheel to mobile transport wheel required several breakthroughs. Axle integration. The wheel had to be fixed to a rotating axle or allowed to rotate freely around it, depending on the design. Material strength. Early wooden wheels needed to withstand heavy loads without cracking. Joinery techniques. The connection between wheel and axle required precise carpentry to reduce friction yet maintain durability. By around 3200 BCE, the first wheeled vehicles appeared in Mesopotamia, solid wooden discs attached to axles, mounted beneath carts pulled by oxen. These carts were heavy and slow, but they opened a new world of possibilities. The spread of the wheel. From Mesopotamia, the wheel spread rapidly to other civilizations. Eastern Europe, archaeological finds in the Ljubljana marshes of Slovenia reveal wooden wheels dating to roughly 3200 BCE, possibly developed independently or through trade. The Indus Valley Civilization, around 3000 BCE, evidence of wheeled carts appears in Harappan settlements. Ancient China, the wheel arrived by 2000 BCE, likely via steppe nomads who adapted it for war chariots. Egypt, initially slow to adopt the wheel for transport, Egypt embraced it for chariots during the New Kingdom, 1600 BCE, revolutionizing warfare. Wheels in warfare. The chariot revolution. One of the most dramatic transformations brought by the wheel was its role in ancient warfare. The invention of the spoked wheel around 2000 BCE reduced weight and increased speed, enabling the creation of agile chariots. Civilizations from the Hittites to the Egyptians and Chinese deployed chariot forces that could outmaneuver infantry, deliver devastating missile fire, and serve as platforms for elite warriors. Chariots changed the balance of power between states, making mobility and speed as important as raw manpower. They also stimulated advancements in metallurgy, woodworking, and animal harnessing, each a technological leap in its own right. The wheel and trade. With wheeled carts, traders could move greater volumes of goods over land routes. This facilitated the growth of long-distance trade networks, such as the Silk Road, which connected China to the Mediterranean. Grain, textiles, pottery, and precious metals could now be transported in bulk, making commerce more profitable and economies more interconnected. The wheel also spurred infrastructure development. Roads were improved to handle heavier, wheeled traffic. Bridges were built to connect trade routes. The wheel, in effect, was both a cause and a consequence of expanding human exchange. Agricultural transformation. In agriculture, the wheel was crucial to innovations like the water wheel and wheeled plow. The water wheel, developed in the ancient Hellenistic world, used flowing water to grind grain or power simple machinery, reducing human and animal labor. The wheeled plow allowed farmers to cultivate larger areas of land more efficiently, feeding larger populations and supporting urban growth. The wheel as a machine element. Beyond transport and agriculture, the wheel evolved into a core mechanical component in countless devices. Pulleys, using a wheel with a groove, allowed lifting heavy objects with less effort. Gears, rotating toothed wheels, transmitted motion and force in clocks, mills, and engines. Flywheels, storing rotational energy to stabilize and smooth power output. By the Middle Ages, water wheels and windmills powered flour mills, sawmills, and textile production. The Industrial Revolution would later integrate wheels into steam engines, locomotives, and factory machinery. The wheel also became a potent symbol in religion and philosophy. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the wheel of Dharma represents the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. In ancient Celtic culture, the wheel symbolized the sun and divine order. Even today, the wheel appears in national flags, corporate logos, and artistic motifs as a metaphor for progress and continuity. In the modern era, the wheel underpins countless technologies: automobiles, trains, and aircraft landing gear, conveyor belts in factories, turbines in power generation, hard drives, and mechanical parts in computers. The concept has also expanded beyond physical rotation terms like wheels of industry or Wheel of Time, reflect how deeply embedded it is in human thought. The wheel's enduring impact lies not only in its original transportation role, but in its universal application to mechanical systems. It is a reminder that transformative ideas often emerge from simple principles, and that the true genius of invention lies in adaptation, refinement, and integration into daily life. Without the wheel, our cities, economies, and even our imagination of movement would be unrecognizable. Part 2. Writing, the Script of Civilization. If the wheel set humanity in motion, writing gave civilization its memory. Writing is the single most important invention for the preservation and transmission of knowledge across generations. It allowed human beings to store information outside the fragile confines of the human brain, enabling complex societies, codified laws, recorded history, and sophisticated administration. Before writing, cultures relied on oral tradition stories, laws, and knowledge passed from one generation to the next by word of mouth. While oral storytelling could be rich and nuanced, it was also fragile. Memory could fade, details could shift, and critical information could be lost entirely if a storyteller died prematurely. Writing changed all that. It was humanity's first external hard drive, a way to download thoughts and preserve them for centuries. Before writing, the age of oral tradition. For tens of thousands of years, human communities lived without writing. They still communicated complex ideas, but these ideas were stored and transmitted exclusively through speech, gestures, and symbolic art. Cave paintings at Lascaux and Chauvet in France, dating back 30,000 years, were early attempts to record aspects of human experience, hunting scenes, animals, and possibly ritual activities. Knots and tokens served as mnemonic devices. The Inca quipu, a system of knotted cords, stored numeric and possibly narrative information. Oral tradition was central to indigenous cultures around the world, from Aboriginal songlines in Australia to epic poetry like the Homeric tales in Greece, which were composed and transmitted long before they were written down. But oral tradition had limits. The expansion of agriculture, the growth of cities, and the development of trade required more permanent records, especially for economic transactions, property rights, and laws. The birth of writing. Sumerian cuneiform. Around 3200 BCE, in ancient Sumer, modern-day southern Iraq, the first true writing system emerged, cuneiform. Initially, clay tokens were used to represent goods, e.g., a cone for a measure of grain, a sphere for a sheep. Over time, these tokens were pressed into clay tablets as impressions. Eventually, scribes replaced the tokens entirely with stylized symbols drawn with a reed stylus, creating wedge-shaped marks, hence the name cuneiform, from the Latin cuneus, meaning wedge. Cuneiform began as a purely practical tool for accounting, keeping track of grain storage, livestock, and labor. But it soon expanded to record myths, prayers, royal decrees, and even school exercises. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's earliest literary masterpieces, survives thanks to cuneiform tablets. Egyptian hieroglyphs. Writing as art. At roughly the same time as cuneiform, another great civilization developed its own writing system, Egyptian hieroglyphs. Dating back to around 3100 BCE, hieroglyphs combined logographic symbols representing words and phonetic symbols representing sounds, elements. Egyptian writing was not just functional, it was an art form. Hieroglyphs adorned temple walls, tombs, and monuments, often carved and painted in stunning detail. While cuneiform favored clay and stylus, Egyptians wrote on papyrus, a plant-based material that was far more portable. Papyrus scrolls allowed knowledge to travel more easily, influencing cultures far beyond the Nile. Chinese characters, a continuous legacy. In East Asia, The earliest confirmed Chinese writing dates to the Shang dynasty, 1200 BCE, on oracle bones, animal bones, and turtle shells used for divination. The characters carved into these bones are direct ancestors of the modern Chinese script, making it the longest continuously used writing system in the world. Unlike alphabetic systems, Chinese writing is logographic. Each character represents a word or morpheme. This allowed the language to be read by people speaking different dialects, an important factor in unifying China's vast territory. The alphabet, a revolutionary simplification. One of the greatest leaps in writing technology was the development of the alphabet. Instead of requiring thousands of symbols, an alphabet uses a small set of letters to represent sounds, which can be combined to form any word. The earliest known alphabetic system emerged among the Phoenicians, 1050 BCE, a seafaring people whose trade networks spread their script across the Mediterranean. The Greeks adapted the Phoenician alphabet, adding vowels. This made reading and writing easier and more precise. The Latin alphabet, developed by the Romans from the Greek system, eventually became dominant in Europe and remains the most widely used writing system today. Writing was never just a neutral tool, it was a means of controlling and legitimizing power. Kings issued written laws, like the Code of Hammurabi, Babylon, approximately 1754 BCE, which set standards for justice. Empires relied on written records for taxation, census-taking, and military logistics. Religious texts from the Torah to the Quran were preserved and canonized through writing, shaping civilizations for millennia. Those who could read and write often held significant influence, leading to the creation of specialized professions like scribes, scholars, and bureaucrats. Writing made it possible to record not only facts but also art. Poetry, drama, philosophy, and history flourished. Herodotus and Thucydides documented history in ancient Greece. Confucius's teachings were preserved in Chinese classics. The Sanskrit epics Mahabharata and Ramayana in India transmitted moral and spiritual lessons. In each case, writing transformed local traditions into enduring cultural heritage. With the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, writing reached an unprecedented audience. Literacy rates rose, books became cheaper, and ideas spread more rapidly than ever before. The digital age has expanded this reach exponentially. Emails, text messages, and social media have turned writing into an instant global communication tool. Writing doesn't just store ideas, it shapes how we think. Psychologists and historians argue that writing encouraged abstract reasoning through formalized argument and philosophy, historical consciousness through records of the past, scientific inquiry through detailed observation and reproducible documentation. From clay tablets to cloud storage, writing remains humanity's most powerful tool for preserving thought. It bridges centuries, unites cultures, and anchors civilization in the permanence of record. Part 3. The Printing Press, Multiplying the Written Word. If writing gave civilization the ability to remember, the printing press gave it the ability to remember faster, wider, and cheaper. The printing press was more than a mechanical invention, it was an information revolution. For the first time, ideas could leap from the minds of their authors to the hands of thousands, even millions, without the slow, costly, and error-prone process of manual copying. At the heart of this revolution was Johannes Gutenberg, a German goldsmith and inventor who, around 1440, introduced a system of movable metal type in Europe. Though movable type had existed in China and Korea centuries earlier, Gutenberg's combination of metal type, an oil-based ink, and a screw press brought unprecedented efficiency to the reproduction of books. The printing press reshaped religion, science, politics, education, and culture. It fueled the Renaissance, empowered the Protestant Reformation, laid the foundation for modern democracy, and democratized knowledge in ways no one at the time could have imagined. The world before printing. Before the printing press, book production in Europe was a painstaking process. Manuscript copying was done by scribes, often monks, in scriptoria, special writing rooms in monasteries. Each book could take months or even years to produce. Mistakes were inevitable, and each copy could vary. Books were rare and expensive, accessible mainly to elites. This scarcity kept literacy rates low and knowledge concentrated in the hands of a few. While oral culture still thrived, the spread of complex ideas was limited. Early printing technologies. Long before Gutenberg, civilizations experimented with ways to reproduce text and images. Woodblock printing in China, Tang Dynasty, 7th century CE, allowed entire pages to be carved into wooden blocks and printed on paper. Movable clay type was developed by Bi Sheng in China, approximately 1040 CE, though it did not spread widely. Metal movable type appeared in Korea in the early 13th century, producing works like the Jikji in 1377, decades before Gutenberg. Why then did Gutenberg's press have such an outsized impact? The answer lies in timing, materials, and Europe's social conditions. Johannes Gutenberg's breakthrough, around 1440, in Mainz, Germany, Gutenberg combined several innovations into a single system: movable metal type, durable, reusable, and precise. Oil-based ink, more permanent and better suited to paper than water-based inks. Adapted screw press, inspired by wine and olive presses, providing consistent pressure for printing. Mass production of type Hans, a mold-based casting system that allowed for rapid replication of letters. His most famous work, the Gutenberg Bible, approximately 1455, demonstrated the press's quality and potential. It featured 42 lines per page, uniform text, and clarity that rivaled manuscript calligraphy. The explosion of printing in Europe. Within decades of Gutenberg's invention, printing presses spread to over 250 European cities. By 1500, an estimated 20 million books had been printed. By 1600, that number had risen to over 200 million. The effect was transformative. Literacy rates soared as books became more affordable. Universities expanded their libraries and curricula. Ideas could travel faster than armies, reshaping geopolitics. Printing and the Renaissance. The press was a catalyst for the Renaissance, a rebirth of classical knowledge and a surge in artistic and scientific creativity. Ancient Greek and Roman texts, long preserved in limited manuscript form, were reprinted and studied widely. Artists and architects shared designs more easily. Scientific treatises, like those of Copernicus and Vesalius, circulated among Europe's thinkers, accelerating discovery. No event better demonstrates the disruptive power of the press than the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther's 95 Theses, 1517, spread rapidly, thanks to printers who reproduced and distributed them without Luther's direct involvement. The Bible was translated into vernacular languages and printed in massive quantities, undermining the monopoly of Latin scripture and priestly interpretation. Religious debates, pamphlets, and polemics reached common citizens, fueling decades of upheaval. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the printing press became science's best ally. Galileo, Newton, and Kepler shared their findings with peers across Europe. Diagrams and illustrations improved understanding of anatomy, astronomy, and mechanics. Standardized, reproducible data allowed experiments to be verified and built upon. Political and social impact. The press enabled the rise of newspapers, shaping public opinion and political discourse, allowed revolutions such as those in America and France to spread their manifestos widely. weakened centralized control of information, challenging monarchs and the church. The technology eventually spread worldwide. In the Ottoman Empire, printing in Arabic script faced resistance but eventually took root. In Asia, printing presses merged with older traditions, influencing publishing in China, Japan, and India. In the Americas, presses arrived with European colonists, shaping colonial and revolutionary culture. Gutenberg's invention stands as one of history's greatest turning points. By making the written word accessible to the masses, the printing press set the stage for the modern world. Mass education, rapid scientific progress, political revolutions, and global communication. Part 4. The steam engine, powering the industrial age. If the wheel put humanity in motion, and writing and printing preserved and spread knowledge, the steam engine turned human ambition into mechanical power. It transformed heat into motion, freeing society from its dependence on muscle, wind, and water currents. The steam engine didn't just increase productivity, it redefined the scale and speed at which work could be done. It drove factories, locomotives, and ships, accelerating the Industrial Revolution and reshaping the map of human civilization. While the concept of harnessing steam had been around since ancient times, it was the systematic development and refinement of the steam engine between the 17th and 19th centuries that brought the modern world into being. Central figures like Thomas Newcomen and James Watt stand out, but their work was built on centuries of experimentation. Ancient beginnings, the Aeolipial. The story of the steam engine begins in antiquity. Around the 1st century CE, the Greek engineer Hero of Alexandria described and possibly built the Aeolipile, a simple device in which steam escaping from bent nozzles caused a sphere to spin. While it demonstrated the principles of steam propulsion, it was treated as a curiosity rather than a source of industrial power. Ancient economies lacked the technological needs, or perhaps the economic incentives, to develop it further. Early modern experiments. In the Renaissance, as scientific curiosity flourished, inventors revisited steam power. In 1606, Jerónimo de Ayans y Beaumont patented a steam-powered water pump in Spain. In 1629, Italian engineer Giovanni Branca described a steam turbine design. In 1698, Thomas Savery patented a fire engine for pumping water from mines. While innovative, Savery's device was limited by its inability to handle high pressures safely. Thomas Newcomen's atmospheric engine, the first practical steam engine, emerged in 1712 with Thomas Newcomen's atmospheric engine, designed primarily for pumping water from flooded mines. Used a piston in a cylinder, driven by atmospheric pressure after steam was condensed inside. Though inefficient by modern standards, it was reliable enough to spread across Britain and continental Europe. Newcomen's engine marked the first large-scale use of steam power in industry, signaling a shift away from purely manual and animal labor. James Watt's revolutionary improvements. The true leap forward came with James Watt in the 1762nd and 1772nd, added a separate condenser, reducing energy loss by keeping the main cylinder hot while condensing steam in a separate chamber. Developed the rotative engine, converting linear piston motion into rotary motion suitable for powering machinery. Introduced double-acting pistons, which harnessed steam pressure on both strokes, doubling efficiency. Partnered with industrialist Matthew Boulton to produce engines for factories, mills, and transportation. Watt's engines didn't just pump water, they powered textile mills, flour mills, and manufacturing plants, becoming the heartbeat of the Industrial Revolution. Steam power and the factory system. Before the steam engine, factories were often built near rivers to harness water power. Steam engines liberated industry from geographic constraints. Factories could be built in urban centers, close to labor and markets. Production became faster and more consistent, leading to mass production. Entire industries, from textiles to metalworking, scaled up dramatically. Steam on the move. Locomotives and railways. The steam engine's most visible impact came in transportation. In 1804, Richard Trevithick built the first full-scale working railway steam locomotive. In the 1822nd and 1832nd, George Stephenson refined locomotive design, leading to the famous rocket, 1829. Railways slashed travel times, connected markets, and made the movement of goods and people cheaper and faster. Railways also changed the human perception of distance and time, shrinking continents into networks of hours rather than days. Steam at sea. Steam power also conquered the oceans. In 1807, Robert Fulton's Clermont proved that steamships could operate commercially on rivers. By the mid-19th century, ocean-going steamships were replacing sailing ships, unaffected by wind patterns and able to keep strict schedules. Steamships opened new trade routes, reinforced colonial networks, and accelerated global migration. Social and economic impact. The steam engine fueled urbanization as workers moved to cities for factory jobs, enabled mass production, lowering the cost of goods, expanded global trade networks, increased demand for coal and steel, reshaping resource economies. It also had downsides: industrial pollution, harsh labor conditions, and the displacement of traditional crafts. Steam power in everyday life. By the 19th century, steam wasn't just in factories or ships. Steam-powered printing presses produced newspapers at unprecedented speed. Steam-powered pumps improved urban water supply and sewage systems. Steam trams and carriages began appearing in cities. Decline and legacy. By the early 20th century, steam power began to give way to internal combustion engines and electric motors. Yet its legacy is monumental. The infrastructure of modern industry, transport, and commerce was built on steam. Steam turbines remain vital in electricity generation today. The steam engine symbolizes humanity's mastery over mechanical energy, an era when fire and water combined to drive the gears of progress. Part 5. Electricity and the Light Bulb. Illuminating the Modern World. Electricity is not just another invention, it is the lifeblood of modern civilization. While humans have always lived with natural electrical phenomena, lightning in the sky, static shocks on dry days, the systematic understanding, generation, and control of electricity is a comparatively recent achievement. It is the invisible force that powers our homes, industries, communication systems, and even the very device you are reading this on. Within the story of electricity, one emblematic symbol stands out: the light bulb. More than a simple source of light, the electric bulb became a cultural icon of innovation. It transformed human activity, extending the day beyond the setting sun, enabling nighttime work, leisure, and study, and reshaping urban and rural life alike. The ancient curiosity for electricity. The journey toward harnessing electricity began with curiosity. 600 BCE, the Greek philosopher Thales of Miletus observed that rubbing amber with fur attracted small objects, an early record of static electricity. Ancient Egypt, electric catfish in the Nile, were known for delivering shocks, possibly used in rudimentary medical treatments. Ancient Rome, records describe the use of electric torpedo fish to numb pain. For centuries, these were curiosities, not technologies. Electricity remained a natural wonder without practical application. The age of experimentation. The 17th and 18th centuries saw systematic study begin. William Gilbert, 1600, coined the term electricus to describe materials that attract objects after being rubbed. Otto von Guericke built the first static electricity generator in the mid-1600s. Benjamin Franklin famously flew a kite in a thunderstorm, 1752, to prove the electrical nature of lightning. Luigi Galvani, 1782, observed that frog legs twitched when touched with different metals, hinting at bioelectricity. Alessandro Volta responded by inventing the voltaic pile, 1800, the first true battery, enabling continuous electrical current, from discovery to power generation. In the early 19th century, Hans Christian Ørsted, 1820, discovered electromagnetism, linking electricity and magnetism. Michael Faraday, 1831, demonstrated electromagnetic induction, showing that moving a conductor through a magnetic field generates electricity, laying the foundation for generators. James Clerk Maxwell, 1862, unified electricity and magnetism into a single theoretical framework. These breakthroughs meant electricity could now be generated, stored, and transmitted. The quest for electric lighting. Before electricity, artificial lighting came from fire torches, candles, oil lamps, and later gas lamps. These methods had limitations: smoke, soot, danger of fire, and limited brightness. The idea of electric light emerged in the early 19th century. Humphrey Davy, 1802, created the first incandescent light by passing current through a thin strip of platinum. By 1806, Davy also demonstrated the arc lamp, producing intense light by sparking between carbon electrodes. Arc lamps lit public spaces but were impractical for homes too bright, too noisy, and too power-hungry. Thomas Edison and the practical light bulb. Many inventors worked on incandescent lighting, but Thomas Edison, 1879, is credited with creating the first commercially viable version. Used a carbonized bamboo filament lasting up to 1,200 hours. Operated at lower voltage, making it safer for home use. Developed an entire electrical distribution system to power bulbs, generators, wiring, and switches. Edison's genius was not just in the bulb, but in making an ecosystem that could deliver light to millions. 5.6 Nikola Tesla, alternating current, and the current wars. Edison's direct current, DC, system worked for short distances, but Nikola Tesla, working with George Westinghouse, championed alternating current, AC. AC could travel long distances with less energy loss. This sparked the famous War of Currents in the 1882nd, 1892nd. AC ultimately won, becoming the standard for electrical grids worldwide. Electrification of the world. By the early 20th century, cities began installing electric streetlights, reducing crime and extending nightlife. Factories ran longer hours and with greater efficiency. Electric appliances, irons, refrigerators, radios entered homes. Rural electrification programs in countries like the U.S., 1932nd, transformed agriculture and rural life. Electricity's expanding influence. Electricity became the backbone of countless technologies. Communication, telegraph, telephone, radio, television, internet. Transport, electric trams, subways, and modern electric cars. Medicine, X-rays, MRI scanners, life support systems. Computing, from early mainframes to smartphones. Every sector of the economy came to depend on reliable electrical supply. The light bulb as a symbol, beyond its practical use, the light bulb became an icon, represents creativity, a light bulb moment, symbolizes modernity and progress, featured in art, literature, and corporate logos. The image of a glowing bulb remains shorthand for innovation itself, challenges, and the future. Electricity generation today faces sustainability challenges. Fossil fuel-based generation contributes to climate change. Renewable sources, solar, wind, hydro, are expanding. Advances in LED lighting have drastically reduced energy consumption. The next great leap may be in wireless power transmission, an idea Tesla dreamed of more than a century ago. Electricity and the light bulb fundamentally changed human existence. They gave humanity control over night and day, powered the machinery of industry, and opened the door to the digital age. Without them, the internet, modern medicine, and space exploration would be impossible. Part 6. The Internet. Connecting the World. The wheel moved us, writing remembered us, the printing press amplified our voices, the steam engine powered our ambitions, and electricity illuminated our path. But the Internet, this vast, invisible network, has fused all those previous revolutions into a single, global nervous system. It is the most powerful communication tool in human history, capable of transmitting the sum of human knowledge across continents in milliseconds. The Internet is not a single invention by a single person. It is a tapestry woven over decades by scientists, engineers, governments, and private companies. It is both a technology and a cultural phenomenon, influencing everything from global trade to personal relationships. Life before the Internet. Before the Internet, information traveled through printed media, books, newspapers, magazines, broadcast media, radio, and television, telecommunication, telegraphs, telephones, and fax machines. While these systems were revolutionary in their time, they lacked the speed, interactivity, and scalability of a truly global, decentralized network. The early foundations, the roots of the Internet, lie in the Cold War. In the late 1952, after the Soviet launch of Sputnik, the U.S. created the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, to fund high-tech research. In the 1962, computer scientists explored time-sharing multiple users accessing a single computer via terminals. The concept of packet switching emerged, championed by Paul Baran in the U.S. and Donald Davies in the U.K., allowing data to be broken into packets and reassembled at the destination. ARPANET, the first network. In 1969, Arkansas, PA funded the creation of ARPANET, connecting 4 U.S. universities: UCAA, Stanford Research Institute, UCE, Santa Barbara, University of Utah. The first message, Logan, crashed the system after the first 2 letters, an inauspicious start to a technology that would one day carry trillions of messages daily. TCP, IP, and the birth of the modern Internet. In the 1972, Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn developed Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, TCP/IP, a universal set of rules for data exchange. On the 1st of January 1983, Arkansas PANET officially adopted TCP/IP, marking the birth of the modern Internet. From research to public use. Through the 1982nd National Science Foundation, NSF, built NSFNET, connecting more universities. Commercial restrictions began to loosen. Email became one of the earliest and most popular applications. By the early 1992, private companies were allowed to join the network, setting the stage for explosive growth. The World Wide Web. In 1989, at CERN in Switzerland, Tim Berners-Lee proposed a system to link documents via hypertext accessible through the Internet. By 1991, the first website went live. His creation, the World Wide Web, added web browsers for easy navigation, HTML, HTTP, and URLs for standardized access. A visual, user-friendly interface to the Internet. The dot-com boom. From 1995 to 2000, businesses rushed to establish websites. Online retailers like Amazon and eBay transformed shopping. Search engines like Yahoo and Google helped users navigate the web. The dot-com bubble burst in 2000, but the infrastructure and habits it created endured. Broadband and the always-on era. In the 2002, Dial-up connections gave way to broadband, faster and always connected. Streaming media emerged, with YouTube, 2005, redefining entertainment. Social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, now X, and Instagram turned the internet into a social hub. The mobile revolution. The launch of the iPhone, 2007, and subsequent smartphones put the internet in everyone's pocket. Mobile apps transformed communication, WhatsApp Messenger, transportation, Uber, Lyft, commerce, mobile banking, online payments, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things. Today, vast data centers store and process information for billions of users. Cloud services power remote work, online gaming, AI-driven tools. The Internet of Things, IoT, connects everyday objects, thermostats, cars, medical devices to the web. The Internet's global impact. Economy enabled e-commerce, fintech, and the gig economy. Politics, social media activism, online campaigns, disinformation, education, MOOCs, online universities, instant access to research. Culture, memes, global music, video sharing, digital art. Challenges, digital divide. Billions remain without reliable internet access. Privacy and security, data breaches, surveillance, cybercrime. Misinformation, fake news, algorithm-driven echo chambers. The future, expansion of 5G and beyond. Satellite internet, e.g. Starlink, bringing connectivity to remote areas. Integration with AI for personalized, predictive services. The possibility of a decentralized, blockchain-based web. The Internet is the most interconnected invention in history, merging the functions of all prior technologies, printing, telephony, broadcasting into one. It is both the product and the driver of globalization, shaping a world where physical distance no longer dictates human interaction. Across thousands of years, human ingenuity has sparked revolutions, not just in technology, but in the very structure of civilization. The 6 inventions we have examined, the wheel, writing, the printing press, the steam engine, electricity and the light bulb, and the internet stand as towering milestones. Each emerged in a unique context, driven by different needs, yet together they form a chain of innovation that connects the ancient world to the present digital age. While the details of each invention's origin differ, their impacts share a common pattern: problem recognition. The wheel answered the problem of moving heavy loads. Writing solved the challenge of memory. The printing press addressed the need to spread information efficiently. Incremental improvement. Rarely did an invention spring forth fully formed. The steam engine evolved over centuries. Electric lighting saw dozens of prototypes before becoming practical. Societal integration. Each technology's real power lay not in the first prototype, but in its adoption into daily life, catalyzing further innovation. The printing press fueled the scientific revolution. Electricity enabled computers. The Internet now drives advances in AI, from physical to digital. The wheel represents mechanical mastery over the physical world. Writing and the printing press mark humanity's conquest of information, preservation, and distribution. The steam engine embodies the harnessing of energy to multiply human labor. Electricity powered the electrification of life and enabled control over time and space through artificial light. Finally, the Internet dissolves the boundaries between physical and digital, fusing communication, commerce, and culture into a single global sphere. Impact on human experience. Each invention fundamentally altered. Economy. Expanding trade routes, creating new industries, redefining labor. Society, shaping cities, governance, education, and communication. Culture, inspiring art, literature, and collective identity. Individual life, changing how people work, interact, and imagine their futures. The shift from a pre-will world to one with global internet access is a shift from isolated human communities to a planetary civilization. Unintended consequences. Innovation's power is double-edged. The steam engine powered industry, but also fueled pollution. The internet connected billions, but also enabled misinformation and cybercrime. Electricity brought light, but increased energy demand and environmental impact. These consequences remind us that technological progress must be matched with ethical and sustainable use. Lessons for the future. From these 6 stories, several lessons emerge. Collaboration multiplies progress. Even the most famous inventors built on the work of predecessors. Infrastructure is as important as invention. Edison's light bulb needed a power grid. The internet needed global networks. Access shapes impact. Printing transformed Europe, partly because books became affordable. The internet transforms society where it is accessible. Adaptation is continuous. Technologies evolve, finding new uses in changing eras. The next revolution. It is tempting to believe that our era's greatest breakthroughs are behind us, but history suggests otherwise. The 6 inventions here were not endpoints, they were gateways. The next transformative leap may come from quantum computing, biotechnology, renewable energy, or something we cannot yet imagine. And like the wheel or the printing press, it will emerge from a blend of necessity, creativity, and the cumulative knowledge of generations. Closing reflection. If the story of civilization were a great book, these 6 inventions would be its boldest chapters. Each one shifted the plot of human history, widening the horizons of what is possible. They remind us that human beings are not just tool users, but world builders capable of reshaping the conditions of life itself. The wheel gave us movement. Writing gave us memory. The printing press gave us shared knowledge. The steam engine gave us industrial power. Electricity gave us mastery over light and energy. The internet gave us a collective, instantaneous voice. The next chapter is unwritten, but the pen is in our hand.